This is an exciting day for me. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the Infrastructure Management Dashboard Community Edition. What is it? It's a self-hosted, runs on your machine via Docker Compose. That machine can be an ARM, so it could be an M series Mac. It could be a Raspberry Pi. It could be a Linux server. It could be a Windows box. Doesn't matter. Deploys into your own cloud accounts with your own credentials. Nothing phones home. You get to set it up in under 30 minutes from git clone to first deployed VM. Today's demo covers deploy, image, and teardown across all three clouds. Right, the thread through all four of the tiles on the screen. The dashboard encodes the discipline so users don't have to remember it. Declarative modules, Git reviewed templates, one image artifact promoted to all three clouds, and per job Terraform state that makes destroy deterministic. So we've made secure choices, as many as we can. For example, we have ephemeral by design, which maps cleanly onto SOC 2, CC 6.1, NIST 800-53, AC-6, SC-39, and CIS controls 4.1 and 4.7. There's nothing persistent to harden, audit, or rotate. Guardrails are operator owned. Out of the box, nothing is enforced. You opt into region allow lists, size caps, freeze windows, or bring your own Rego policy. Let's see it live.
So after we've pulled down the Docker container from Docker Hub, and it's a public Docker container, run through the config wizard, and the first thing it's going to ask you for is to build out an admin user. It assumes that you want that username to be admin, but it certainly doesn't have to be. In addition, you're seeing here on the screen showing the three different containers. So the Docker Compose that's out on the Docker Hub, and I'll have links for all of this in my YouTube video comment section. But there's a database. It's built for Postgres. You can also use SQLite if you'd prefer. But then there's two pieces. There's a worker and then an actual app container that drives all of the work. So let's go back into the wizard. We'll hit next and run through all the different configuration here for AWS. I do have sandbox scripts. So if there's any confusion around that. But essentially what we're looking for here is you put in an IAM user that has a certain set of privileges to work inside of the AWS environment for EC2 in particular. If we want to use SSMM to send commands to that Linux machine, we'll have to put in that IAM role for that. In addition, we also need to leverage the AWS Secrets Manager and put a key that will reference. So that's that first initial key that we use when creating an EC2 instance. Azure page, it's a lot bigger than the AWS page, just by the nature it's Azure. So we have your OAuth credentials, client ID, client secret, nothing dramatically different. But then there's a tenant ID, subscription ID, resource group, lots of optional configuration. We also have the ability to use Azure Container Registry as opposed to using the Docker Hub. You have options for using an image gallery as opposed to using the images stored in the registry. The ACR is very useful because, frankly, we use a lot of containers here in the solution and don't want to be hit with the rate limiting that happens in Azure. On the Google side, we have our project ID, and that's where all the resources are really aligned with. We have our SSH key secret again. Point subnetwork, which is different than the default subnetwork. There's the Docker deploy key, which is useful for PRA jumps. And then on the last page here, we have all of our feature flags for all the optional integrations. And you'll actually see some of these here live.
You can see here that I've been working. So I was in a reconfigure state before, and I've actually got some images in AWS, images Azure as well as GCP. While we're talking in the kind of life cycle for that, well, what we can do quite simply, just give you again a tour, right? Nothing wild or crazy here. You can upload from storage the provisioner scripts if you go look on my GitHub repo, um, which allows you to, for example, if I want to say like auto patch, I can add that as an environment variable, set to 1 if that's what I want. Do have to actually set this to something. And then I would be able to start the macro build. I just need to populate an actual AMI here. These are community images that you can do a quick deploy, which actually it saved it. There we go. And we'll label in my password save user. Dig more into some of this at a later date, probably. Go ahead and start that Packer build. This takes me to my job screen and get a nice progress bar for everything that's happening. Yeah, if you look at the hamburger menu, those are all the different screens that I have. I can probably, I'm not going to sit here and watch this. We'll press on. If we go to my images tab, this is my image registry. So anytime I build an image, it automatically is assuming all the different permissions and everything are set up. And if that's a concern, I do have sandbox scripts again in my GitHub repo. I'll have links to all of this in the comment section of the video, but it'll automatically create a registry version. Notes the source, notes the AMI, region where it was built. So far, yeah, it looks like I've only really done image building in Azure and AWS, but you can do it in GCP just as well. But I have taken this AWS Linux image and that I built in AWS. Makes sense? And then I promoted it to Azure. And we do have, cross promote capability. I'm not going to run this just because I already have one running here for GCP, and for Azure, it's already completed. If I go look at my private images for Azure, you can see, there you go, image built.
All right, because we've been so focused on AWS and Azure, let's switch gears here to kind of the third platform. Sometimes I lovingly refer to GCP as the red-headed stepchild of the three different cloud providers, but certainly, it is a supported platform for the infrastructure management dashboard. I've got a few different images here. I'm going to go ahead and hit this deploy VM for that image, build this out. So this is, Rocky 9. We'll pick a zone. We'll go to a smaller, like the E, but we'll do an E2 micro. It'd be perfect just for this. We'll use this subnet here. Leave that fine. So on Azure and GCP, there is a toggle to attach an ephemeral public IP address. If you want a public IP address for an EC2 instance, that is all driven by your security group as well as the actual network. So choose wisely there. That's the reason why this toggle is here on GCP and Azure. Again, the clouds are all a little bit different. Try to make everything as standardized as possible. But yeah, let me go ahead and do a quick deploy here. It'll build out, because I've got the BeyondTrust PRA integration, it is going to build out that jump point first. And then once the jump point is there, then it'll actually build out the VM. Here we go, grab the key for that first initial deploy, and now it's actually building out the compute engine instance. All right, there we go. So within a minute since launched, I got a shell jump. So what's exciting about this is happens all very quickly on the fly. It's all driven through Terraform. Okay, there you go. Just needed a minute. All right, so yeah, all happens live, and when I actually delete it, I actually wipe it out very quickly. So let me go ahead and click on this. There is my GCP user credential here. So this is a secret that I manage inside of Password Safe. It also exists in Google Secret Manager, and I sync it into PRA. Sounds complicated. Promise it really isn't. But there you go. I'm in. I'm connected. We could do DNF update -y. Everything should work. And there we go. Could do a file transfer. Again, this is just all PRA functionality. Go back here into the, actually, it's nice to show this actually from the GCP side. So from a compute instance perspective, there is the VM instance running. You can see the private IP. You can see who created it, me. If I wanted to capture an image, I could. If I want to destroy it, I can. And if I go here to my containers, there's the container instance that's running. That's my jump point. So that's actually what's proxying the connection. And it has, through its own network, access to the PRA tenant itself. All right, so I'm going to walk through how to, now that I'm back on the Compute Instances tab of the GCP page, I'm going to go and show you just the destroy workflow. Happens very quickly, but it's going to actually, because we're storing state and the way that Terraform works, all of the objects that are a part of that state, when you go and do the destroy, it gets rid of everything. So that includes the VM, that includes the container instance that I'm running, that is the jump point, and it will also wipe out here in my PRA session, it gets rid of the actual shell jump item, which is awesome, right? Clean up after ourselves. No sense in needing it, right? Tells that nice like infrastructure as code story. What's there? Okay. Now it's fully destroyed. Fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. That was a quick introduction of the Infrastructure Management Dashboard Community Edition. Walk through our Terraform and Packer workflows very quickly. I'll be doing deeper dive videos here shortly on many of the different integrations that are here, including Password Safe and Tidal, as well as some of the on-prem hypervisor integrations and some coming soon features. Actually, Databases is out of preview. I'll have some videos on building out cloud databases, managing access, and managing credentials to those cloud databases. All right, thanks. Have a great day.